Ever wondered where the beautiful game of football originated from? Sit back and let's embark on a journey through time to discover the roots of this beloved sport. Football, as we know it today, is a product of centuries of evolution, with its humble beginnings traced back to ancient civilizations such as China, Greece, and Rome. These early civilizations, although vastly different in their cultures and traditions, shared a common love for a game that involved the simple act of kicking a ball. In ancient China, around the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC, a game known as cuju emerged. Cuju, literally translating to kickball, was a popular activity during the Han Dynasty and was even used as a military training exercise. The aim of the game was to kick a leather ball filled with feathers into a small net, all while avoiding the use of hands. Parallel to the Chinese cuju, ancient Greeks and Romans had their variations of football as well. The Greeks played a game called episkiros, where two teams would try to throw a ball over the heads of the other team. The Romans, on the other hand, had a game called harpastum, which was a more violent version of the Greeks' episkiros. As we move westwards, we find that Native American tribes also had their versions of the game. They played Passamaquoddy, a game that could have up to 600 players at once and goals about a mile apart. These early forms of football bear little resemblance to the modern game. They were often violent, disorganized, and chaotic. But they all shared a common element: the joy of playing with a ball. These ancient games, as diverse and distinct as they were, set the stage for the evolution of the sport. They fostered a universal love for the game, transcending boundaries of geography and culture. The early forms of football were a far cry from the game we know today, but they laid the foundation for what was to come. As time passed, football evolved, especially during the medieval times. A version of the game we know and love today began to take shape in medieval England. It was a time when the game was less a sport and more a wild, uncontrolled spectacle that often involved entire villages. Imagine the scene: a chaotic melee where the only goal was to get a ball, which could be anything from an inflated pig's bladder to a wooden clog, from one end of the village to the other. The playing field was not a neatly marked pitch, but the whole village, including streets, fields, and even rivers. There were no teams in the modern sense, but rather a clash of communities, often with hundreds, if not thousands, of players involved. This was not a game for the faint-hearted. It was a violent and dangerous affair, where injuries, and sometimes even deaths, were not uncommon. With virtually no rules to speak of, anything went in these medieval football matches. Kicking, punching, biting, gouging, you name it, it was probably part of the game. Despite, or perhaps because of, its chaotic nature, the game was wildly popular. It was a significant part of major festivals and holidays, and a source of community pride. The game was so popular, in fact, that it often interfered with more serious pursuits, such as archery practice, which was essential for national defense. This led the authorities to attempt to ban the game repeatedly. Kings Edward II and Edward III, and even Queen Elizabeth I, all issued proclamations against the playing of football. But these bans were largely ignored by the people, and the game continued to be played. Despite attempts to suppress it, football's popularity only grew, setting the stage for its formalization. The game's wild and violent past may seem far removed from the structured and regulated sport we know today, but it is a testament to the enduring appeal of this beautiful game. The 19th century marked a significant turning point for football. This era witnessed the birth of the game as we know it today, with a marked shift from a disordered and chaotic pastime to a structured and codified sport. In the early part of the century, football was primarily played in public schools across England. Each institution had its own set of rules, making the game a bit of a free-for-all. It was fun, sure, but it was also chaotic. Recognizing the need for a more organized approach, these schools began to codify their rules. This process was not without its challenges, as each school fiercely protected its own unique version of the game. Yet gradually, a consensus emerged, and the foundations of modern football were laid. Then, in the year of 1863, a seminal event took place. The Football Association, the first governing body of football, was formed in England. This was a significant milestone, as it brought with it the standardization of rules. No longer were there different versions of football being played in different parts of the country. Now, there was a single set of rules, a unified game that everyone could understand and play. This period also saw the split between association football and rugby football. It was a divide rooted in a fundamental disagreement over the use of hands in the game. Those who favored a game with less handling formed the Football Association, while those who preferred a game where the ball could be carried as well as kicked went on to form the Rugby Football Union 8 years later. And so, the stage was set for the evolution of the beautiful game. The formation of the Football Association and the standardization of rules brought order to the chaos. It created a framework within which the game could grow and flourish, and it paved the way for football to become the global phenomenon that it is today. With the establishment of a governing body and standardized rules, the modern game of football was born. From its roots in England, football began to spread across the globe. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, the game began to transcend borders, cultures, and languages. It was no longer just an English pastime. Football was on its way to becoming the world's game. The spread of football was not a random happening. It was facilitated by the formation of an international governing body. Imagine the year 1904. Representatives from 7 European countries gather in Paris. They established the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, known to us today as FIFA. This organization was founded with the goal of regulating and promoting football internationally. And promote it did. The first World Cup was held in 1930. Despite the Great Depression, 13 teams made the journey to Uruguay to compete. It was a statement to the world. Football was not just a game anymore. It was a global event. This tournament set the stage for the world's most popular sporting event, watched by billions every 4 years. While the World Cup was captivating audiences at the international level, at the domestic level, professional leagues and competitions started cropping up around the world. From the Serie A in Italy, La Liga in Spain, to the Major League Soccer in the United States, these leagues provided a platform for players to showcase their skills and for fans to rally behind their local teams. These developments in the 20th century marked a turning point in the history of football. It was no longer confined to the parks and back alleys of England. It was being played in the grandest stadiums, watched by millions and uniting people from all walks of life. Football had become a global phenomenon, uniting people of different cultures and backgrounds through a shared love of the game. Today, football stands as the world's most popular sport. Its influence reaches far beyond the pitch, permeating various aspects of our daily lives. From the vibrant murals that grace city walls to the infectious energy of match day, football has become an indelible part of our global culture. The beautiful game, as it's affectionately known, has the unique ability to unite people from all walks of life. In stadiums, parks, and streets across the globe, football serves as a common language, breaking down barriers and fostering a sense of community. It's not just about the goals, the saves, or the breathtaking moments of skill. It's about the shared passion, the camaraderie, and the collective joy that it brings. From its humble beginnings to its current status as a global spectacle, the history of football is a testament to the sport's enduring appeal and the universal joy it brings.